If you were to ask me months ago if I thought I would be doing a show today about why you should write a book, I would have said, you are absolutely nuts. I still don't think I'm going to win the lottery. But now, full disclosure, and I did a video on this. I'll link it up in the description if you want to see it. But, writing a book has been on my do list for quite some time. But it wasn't until recently that I really kind of got my butt in gear and decided to write one. And after doing that and having some initial success, which I think you've always got to define what success is for you, I thought, you know what? I think more video creators should write a book. But I didn't want to do it by myself because there's a good friend of mine. I call him the Godfather. I think I'm going to start referring to him as the OG of live streaming, who helped me unbelievably so. I'm going to bring in him now. Ladies and gentlemen, Ross Brand.
Hey, congratulations. A #1 bestseller the first time out of the gate. It's a fantastic book. I've got it right here. It's not only, I got to tell you, it's not only great for people getting started, but it's an awesome reference for anybody to keep by their studio, in their studio, by their side, and look it up when they need to know some gear, when they want to rethink about how they're setting up their audio or video or lighting. You really cover everything, including types of live streams as far as the content go, which is often a missing piece when people write kind of how-to books. So
yeah,
it's a fabulous book, and huge congratulations. And also, I'm honored to be a part of it. Thank you for asking me to do the forward. I'm really proud of how everything came out.
Yeah, absolutely. So when if you guys watching don't know that, somebody asked me the other day, where did you and Ross meet? I'm like, I don't know. It's one of these, like, you meet somewhere online, probably through a live stream, and we've just gotten to know each other. I think there's an unbelievable mutual respect for each other. I've learned so much from Ross. Ross's book. This is just one of the three. We've bought each other's. This was the first one. Then there's 3 versions of this. I had the honor.
You've been in all 3, right?
Yeah. And I had the honor and privilege of being in all 3 of those, along with 99 other amazing folks. And by the way, we are not opposed to you buying our books.
Yeah.
So, if you want to, there's links to those down in the description. But even if I were not in this book, I'd be sad. But there is all 3 versions. I mean, it's just really, really cool stuff. But Ross helped me in a way that I never would have thought with this book. And I thought, you know what? I think I think I need a forward. I want a forward. And I thought, there's only one person I'm going to ask. And so Ross was my first and only option. I didn't have a backup.
Thank you.
I don't know if you knew that. I probably would have skipped the forward. I wasn't going to ask AI to write my forward. So I appreciate that as well. And if you're joining us either on the live or the replay, today we're not going to just talk a lot about our books, even though we're going to talk about our books, but it's really more about 6 reasons why we believe video creators should write a book. And, I've heard people say that, you can't call yourself a writer if you've never written a book, or an author. Well, we're both authors, right?
That's right.
And we're both video creators. And so I thought, it'd be really good to cover these. So Ross came up with 3. I came up with 3. And here's the kicker. We didn't share notes. Now I did. We're using StreamYard to do this. If you're interested in StreamYard, there's a link down below. And he did send me his list right before the show, and I put him in. I actually copy and pasted Ross. So I really don't know what your list is, but we're going to get to that.
And I
In
don't know your list either, so it'll be fun to see how this shakes out.
that.
See if we
So, but
duplicate each other or if they're all different. And,
yeah, yeah.
you
If
know,
if there's
if
6 of them, but they're all if they're all the same, we're sorry about that. But for folks that may not know a lot about you, just take a minute or two and tell everybody about Ross.
Sure. So I got started in broadcasting as a radio host and reporter and on air personality. I did that for about 12 years. And then I was doing other things. I stumbled into a platform called Blab and just fell in love with broadcasting again. It was like talk radio, except with webcams. And started Livestream Universe, which is my business. And I've been doing that ever since 2015, and every year I do an annual predictions, and after doing it for about 4 or 5 years, decided instead of doing a blog post, I'm going to do a book, and that's the book that Kevin was talking about. So we're going to have book volume 4 of 100 live streaming and digital media predictions coming out at the start of 2024. Kevin, of course, will be one of the featured contributors,
Excellent.
and
Thank
there'll
you.
be at least 99 other predictions as well. So that's kind of what I do. I also host shows and work with different brands in the space.
Very, very cool. And how long have you been in the creator space?
So I guess I would consider my radio career as being a creator, but when we think of that term wasn't around then. When we think the online creator space, I've been on social media since 2012. I actually wasn't on social media at all before that, but I've been in the creator space in terms of doing audio and video since late 2015. So
Yeah,
seven,
it's
8 years.
interesting. Yeah, and I actually forgot that we both kind of shared that similar background of starting in radio as well. Hang on, I was looking for something here. There we go. I wanted to call up both
Yeah.
our books while we're talking.
Nice.
And so, it's funny because I think according to YouTube, I started YouTube in 2017. The irony with that is I had a channel before that. That I deleted like a dork, and then started over. And of course, now I'm a big proponent of do not delete your videos and
Right.
channels. Just let them go. But yeah, I mean, I started in radio a long time ago. I was in TV for the bulk of my human lives, and the human life. But I think, I applaud you for being a pioneer in live streaming and video, in the belief that, streamers and video creators, it's okay to get paid for what you do and make money. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
We don't bring plumbers to our house and go, well, you're not going to charge me, are you? So I might
Yeah,
try
and
that.
I think it helped me a lot having space between when I left doing radio and when I encountered live streaming, because I wasn't trying to fit it into the same model. I was looking at it as a business. I had different business experience between leaving radio, where I was essentially an employee for a station or a freelancer at different times in my career, and now having some experience in the business world. And so I had a little bit different approach. My ego wasn't tied to having call letters next to my name. So I really was able to look at it, both bringing my experience, but also look at it as a unique industry and a different type of medium as well. So it's like the best of both worlds. You get to
Sweet.
bring the radio broadcasting experience, but it's also tech, it's also social. There's a lot of different elements, and of course, business as well, wrapped up into being a creator. It's a very different experience than working for a
Oh, yeah.
company or
Oh, yeah.
working in traditional radio or television.
Yeah. Different kind of work.
Yeah, definitely.
So Let's get to the reason that we really put this together today is the 6 reasons that we collectively believe that video creators should write a book. And, as far as what the book is, you're going to have to figure that out. But here's my first one, that it helps you focus on a single topic. I've never been diagnosed with ADD or ADHD. I'm pretty sure I have it. Focus is not my biggest trait, nor is patience. I share this story as a child. When I would get models, I don't even know if kids do models anymore. You put them together. I didn't have any patience to wait and you glue the door on the car and come back tomorrow. I'd do the whole thing. And everything was sagging, and I wouldn't paint anything, to the point where my dad I didn't know this later, and he was telling people, stop giving my son model cars and planes and trains. He couldn't stand it. So, but I think what I found is, by taking the time that I took to write the book, it really helped me focus on a single topic, which in my case was live streaming.
Yeah, I think what's really valuable, not only for the people who are reading it, but for yourself, is you've now totally organized your thoughts in terms of chapters, sections, paragraphs, and now you have a game plan that easily fits into a course. It fits into how you can go about distributing other types of content. Let me go back to audio. Okay, I can do some videos on that. Let me get back to the basics. I like the fact that you wrote it for the beginner. I know that I try to remind myself when I'm doing YouTube videos to focus on people who are looking for help rather than, the expert that's looking to debate a topic or, polish themselves a little bit, might not be searching for, but a lot of my content isn't geared towards beginners. So I was really impressed with how well you were able to take somebody. Like I said, it's in the forward. It's almost like you can read it in an afternoon or evening and go live the next day. It really methodically,
Cool.
but not in a heavy, burdensome way, gets you from point A to point B ready to go. And that's one of the key things about writing a book now. I mean, it doesn't have to be 800 pages. I mean,
True.
It's what works for the reader, and what works for the reader is being able to consume that material and then apply it without getting overwhelmed in things that aren't essential for them to accomplish their goal.
That's true. Okay, number 2 reason is Ross's number 1. I'm not going to keep doing that because then I'll get screwed up on the numbers. But here we go. It's the modern day business card. What do you mean by that?
Well, we go to conferences, we go to events, we meet people, we network, and sure, you can hand somebody a business card, or you have your digital business card or your link tree or whatever you use, and maybe they remember, maybe they don't. But when they have a book from somebody sitting right there on their desk in their office, it's a huge differentiator. There's nothing like being able to hand out your book and say, hey, I wanted to give you a copy of my book. Whether they read it or they don't read it, it's just a huge differentiator. And I think when you get to a certain level as a creator, it's almost expected. Do you have a book? Do you have a podcast? Do you have a website? What's your Twitter or X or, You're muted, Kevin.
Remember, I'm a professional.
Don't try this at home unless
you read Kevin. At home.
But do read Kevin's book first, then you'll be fine.
Yeah, thank you. Pause and read a chapter. I think that's a great point because, unfortunately, we still get identified by what do you do? Well, I'm an author. Oh, I'm a podcaster. Oh, but even beyond what we do, I'm a plumber, I'm an electrician, I'm a
Right.
doctor, I'm a game show host. It's like we like that. So it is kind of like when you have that in terms of identifiers that people go, oh, wow. And I like that. I like that a lot. Had not thought about that. So, all right, number 3, what I came up with is it extends your expertise to a new audience. And like I am all about YouTube. I love YouTube. It's where I learn stuff. It's where I'm entertained. I spend a ton of time on it. I watch it on my TV. It's my core platform. And video. I mean, I came from the world of TV far more than radio. I was in radio and then I got into television. And it's one of those things where you get so focused on that. And you have a video, it does very well, but there's people, I hope this doesn't shock anybody, but there's people in the world that don't know who you are or me. And you have this ability to extend your expertise or your experience. Everybody's got expertise in something or experience to a whole new audience of people that may be looking for something about something that you could write about. What do you think about that, Ross?
I feel like Jerry Seinfeld. Like, who are these people who don't watch YouTube? No, I think you're right on, and I think one of the key facts here is that Amazon is the world's third biggest search engine. So we know Google is one, we know YouTube is two, but for a lot of the world who may not spend a lot of time on YouTube, what have you, Kevin, I mean, I love this point, and it's something I didn't think about really as I was making my list, and that is get yourself on Amazon, show up in that Amazon search, and come into contact with a whole world of people who just aren't on the path that would cross your YouTube channel or your other social media. They go to Amazon to learn how to do something, perhaps maybe not to a YouTube search. So it's brilliant. It's a brilliant, brilliant point. I love that.
Number 4 in our 6 reasons why video creators, talking to you, should write a book. This is Ross's. It elevates your authority in your industry. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, you have a book, you're an author, you wrote a how-to book on live streaming or a book on trends in digital media or so forth. You are now a better candidate to get offered a speaking gig. You now have something that, just, and I know this from booking guests on shows, it's the book goes to the top of the bio or close to it. It's always, anybody who's got a relatively recent book or a book that did well or is known in their industry, it's a differentiator versus, when people have to look at things as a shorthand, like, how do I determine who should speak here? Or how do I determine who should be a guest on my show? Well, he wrote a book about live streaming. I can sell that to my audience. So I can sell that to the people coming to an event. So yeah, I think it definitely elevates you, both the process of it, because you can talk to people in your industry. It gives you an opening and builds your network, but also just the fact of having it in your bio gives you a leg up perhaps on competition when people have to choose a finite number of people that they can fit into slots.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, we titled this Video Creators. I think this would apply to anybody who's creating video for their business, a nonprofit, a personal brand. I mean, I think of our friend Roger Wakefield, amazing plumber, amazing creator. His YouTube channel is huge. And then you talk to him, he goes, "No, I'm just a plumber." But just imagine in his industry, and maybe he's written a book, if he writes a book about plumbing or his experience in that industry, holy cow. I mean, something like that would be cool.
I mean, even a how-to book, really he could just transcribe his videos and he's halfway there. I mean, he's
Oh,
taught people everything they know about plumbing.
yeah. Yeah. So I love your point about though that it really does just from your industry. So if you're watching this, you're like, well, I'm a video creator, but that's okay. I mean, even, I live streaming is part of what I do. It's not the whole of what I do. And, and even, even Ross's book, and again, this is the first one, there's people in here of all walks of life now that maybe they've never written a book, but they're included in a book.
Right, right.
All right, number 5, and here's what's funny is, and again, if you're joining us, we're talking about the 6 reasons video creators should write a book. And Ross touched on this one earlier. We didn't plan this in advance, but this is mine, is the ability to create more content from your book. And here's what I mean. So and I've thought about, I actually thought about this. The genesis of my book was actually a free checklist that I came up with. And I thought, oh, I need to expand that and do something with it. And then I thought, dude, because I call myself dude, you've talked about writing a book, you've written it down. Why don't you see if you can turn this into a book? So I started doing this strictly as writing a book. I didn't have any page number in mind or anything like that. So I decided, and this is where Ross and I had a lot of conversations, how are you going to release it? How are you going to publish it? And I had this thought of, let me do an ebook and a paper book at the same time. And then it hit me, well, wait a minute. And this goes to, I think, to this point, and something that he touched on earlier. Now that I've done the work, if you will, what my next 2 steps of this is, I'm going to turn this into an audiobook because there's the script. Right. And I'm going to turn this into an online course because the material is written. So I think by writing a book, and you tell me what you think, Ross. I think this works for, it doesn't even have to be a how-to book. Any type of book could be turned into an online course, a blog post, parts of a newsletter. And I just think you can do more with it.
Absolutely. The paperback versions of my book have graphic quotes, which are perfect for sharing when the book comes out, sharing on social media. So that's a content and repurposing. But I think what you're doing with the course and the audio book, I haven't done audiobooks yet for my books, and I'm not. It's a little complicated because of the number of creators and all that. But your book, being that you're the #1 author, basically the only author, you can go right through your own script and create an audiobook, and that's an opportunity to earn more money because it's another thing that people will buy. And I believe with KDP, and I don't know if KDP is the right, I forget how it's done through Amazon, but when there's a separate audio book, and however that shakes out, I think you get a better cut than you do on ebooks and paperbacks, if I recall correctly.
I think what it's Audible, and I do think it's like 60% or something like that. It's separate from that, and it seems like there might be one other place that has it as well. But and who knows what it comes from that? I mean, I could even particularly, and you could do this as well, and anybody that's written a book, do a course on just writing a book.
Right.
I mean, Pat Flynn said something once, and I'm going to paraphrase it. It stuck with me, but I can only remember part of it. Is like, you don't have to change the world. You just need to change one person's world.
Right.
And I've always stuck with that because I think as video creators or creators in general, it's like, I'm going to impact the entire world. And it's like, let me just maybe help one person.
Right. Right. Well, I feel inspired from what you did to perhaps do a how-to book. I don't even have a topic in mind yet, but do some type of how-to book or, book that I just write that shows how you go from point A to point B, and doing the book that I do annually is a lot of people involved and a
Mhm.
lot of different things. And I see, like, you really took the process and streamlined it as far as how do I get this book done in a relatively short period of time? How do um I mean, you were very methodical in how you outlined it, and then you attacked it very aggressively. You didn't. There was no dragging it out. There was no waiting for other people, other than maybe my forward. You really went right at it, and you showed it wasn't. It was something that you could do within your normal schedule as a creator.
Yeah, and it's funny because I mean Ross knows this is that I had this goal of I wanted to write, and I think part of this comes from not having any patience. But I maybe that should be a bonus one. It taught me a patience I don't have. But I wanted to do this fast. I mean, my goal was like I wanted this from written to published in 2 weeks. There's some other things that kind of slow you down. It wasn't Ross in the process of uploading and they have to review it. And I would get an email from Amazon saying your book's available, but it wasn't yet, and you're like, okay, come on, come on, come on. So,
But you
but
went from blank page to completed book within 2 weeks.
I went from, well, the whole process took me about a month.
Okay.
I think though, from
The
organizing
actual writing the book, like
I would
from
say 2 weeks.
outline
Yeah,
to,
I would say 2 weeks.
okay, the manuscript is done. Now
Yeah,
I'm focused on
yeah,
marketing and uploading and selling.
yeah,
So that was
yeah,
about 2 weeks.
yeah. I would say 2 weeks, and then and even in there, it was like trying to, okay, this chapter doesn't make sense here. And then I thought I was done, and I stepped back and read through it again, which
Hmm.
is kind of hard, weird to do. You read your own stuff, and then all of a sudden I realized, oh, I didn't talk about this, and so I added that. But I would say 2 weeks, and then in terms of like the cover, I designed the cover in Canva. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. Don't
It
hate on
looks
me, but
great.
I did it. The first couple I did, I sent to Ross, and Ross was very kind and said, um, there's designers out there. But he had a good it was good insight because I was going one direction with it, and I thought, okay, let me really dial this back. And I mentioned this in another video to kind of get off on a little tangent here, but Sean Cannell doesn't know this, but his book, YouTube for Churches, was a huge learning experience for me. I mean, I don't think he's ever talked about. He shared a little about how he's done it, but I knew he had designed the cover, that it was a shorter read, ebook and things like that. So I had downloaded it and I kind of went through it. And I was like, okay, I kind of get the whole process. I haven't taken any classes in this.
Right.
But yeah, the whole thing was like 2 weeks. And then other than that, so, which I realize is not typical. All right. Number 6 out of the 6 reasons a video creator should write a book this is Ross's tools that make self-publishing possible.
I think we were just talking about this to some extent, and although Kevin makes it sound easy, I don't know for everybody's experience. At least for mine in doing my book, there's a fair amount of challenge and stress that comes in with pulling it all together and proofing it and hitting your deadlines and marketing it and all that. But here's the thing. For most people who have no idea about self-publishing, they really don't realize that it's very possible to do this. First of all, there's no gatekeeper. You don't need to get a publisher. You don't need anybody to approve what you're doing other than to be within the confines of what Amazon KDP or whomever else you upload to. But you can do an ebook, you can do a paperback, and use all the tools that KDP offers to upload it, to sell
Mhm.
it. You sell print on demand through KDP, so you don't have to buy a whole bunch of copies ahead of time and then sell them out of the back of your car. You can, you know, you get charged for
Yeah.
the printing when someone buys. Essentially, it comes out of the revenue from the book, so you're not losing money on that. There are great interior designers who are
Hmm.
affordable. There are book cover artists who are affordable, and there's a lot of tools out
Yeah.
there. It's possible,
Yeah.
and you can take Kevin's road. You can take a road like I took, or you can look at any number of books out there and say, I could do something like that for my field.
Yeah.
Let me, and you don't even have to be a writer to do a good book. A lot of people, there are a lot of people who will actually talk their book and then clean up the writing, or they will take
That's a
it
good.
from
Yeah.
podcasts and live streams, or they'll use a lot of graphics and lists and different things. There really is no limitations other than, again, the terms of service with KDP, and ultimately whether the consumer decides that it's something they want or not. So if you've always dreamed of doing a book, or you always felt like a book would be a nice thing to have for your legacy or for promoting your business right now, the possibility is there to do it all yourself, and then just hire out for a few different
Yeah.
tasks that you might
Yeah.
need help with, or you could do it completely yourself.
Yeah.
And now you're a published author on Amazon, the world's
Yeah.
third biggest search engine. So
Yeah, and I love that you shared that because my word, it just seems like every day it gets somewhat easier to create content. Now, granted, I don't say that like, and I'm not talking about AI. I'm actually talking about you creating content. I always get a kick out of when somebody tells me they had AI create something. It's like, hey, I didn't create anything. It just spit out what you told it to do, right? Um, but the tools that are available and continue to be available, when I mean, I think part of my wanting to self-publish is my independent spirit. And ever since I've been a solo creator, I like that freedom. And Ross touched on it earlier. There's nothing wrong with having a 9 to 5 job. There's nothing wrong with working for somebody at all. I enjoy working for me some days. Um, but the ability to do that, I mean, I used Google Docs to write. I mean, I actually used Apple Notes, and then I went over to Google Docs because I could just keep up with stuff. I used Canva to record, to do the cover, but then I did go to Fiverr. Actually, one of the guys I used to format the book was somebody that Ross had mentioned, and then I found somebody else to format the cover because that was a whole different world I didn't understand. I looked at it and I thought, I don't
you
know
got
what
to
I'm
get
doing here.
those dimensions right on the cover.
Oh yeah, you do. And so that's okay. And then, get into I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but ISBN numbers and what the heck is that? And so I did watch a lot of videos to get better informed, but the reality of it is, outside of some of those costs, it's mine. This is Ross's. And Ross asked me at one point, too, the YouTube for Secrets, the book that Sean wrote with Benji, they did self-publish the first one.
Oh,
And
okay.
that honestly is one of the books that I love. I was at Video Marketing World years ago and actually got that book for free, and I read it on the plane back, and it's absolutely amazing. If you're really serious about YouTube Secrets by Sean Cannell and Benji Travis, I'd highly recommend. But they self-published the first one. You don't have to go that route,
Yeah.
but I do think you have more control of it. And do want to say hey to the folks that are watching
Yeah.
and have been saying hey, and thank you for your support. You got something?
Yeah, I
I
just
think.
wanted to say that in a world in which everything is digital, and you never know if it could get erased or if you remember where you have everything, it's awfully nice to have these things that you can actually a piece of hardware or a hard
Hmm.
copy of something that really it's yours forever, and it's there, and it's hard to put into words, but when you first get that copy of your first book
Oh,
in paperback and you hold it and you open it up, um, it's just different than any other type of
yeah,
creating that you do.
yeah, yeah. And it's funny you say that because, um, I mean, I went with an ebook and a paper book at the same time because one, I thought, I'd rather just give you, if you're going to buy it, the option, pick the one that makes more sense for you. And then there was something about I didn't want to hold up my iPad showing my book. I
Right,
mean,
right.
there's nothing wrong with that, but I wanted to actually hold the book. And yeah, I mean, Ross is absolutely right. I mean, when I got the proof copy, even though they stamped across here, not for resale, I got the proof copy. It was like I was a kid at Christmas because, as a video creator, I can hold my gear,
Right, right.
but the file is digital and it's up there in the cloud somewhere, and I don't really get to see it. So other than watch the video, so it's really a different experience. Totally,
Have
totally.
you thought about what your next book's going to be, or if you're going to do this again?
Oh, I'm gonna do this again. Yeah. Now I've got that the fever.
And you got
Yeah,
the
I
formula.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, and I say this in the other video, this is not the book. This is not the book I thought I was gonna. This would not was not I thought would be my first book at all. Is what it kind I just kind of felt called to write this, and then it was also an experiment. Could I do it? But yeah, I've actually got a couple of ideas that I think will be different. I don't think it's going to be how to, maybe may not even be kind of in this industry. So it'll be fun to see those. And again, since I have no patience, I want to do them now. Get them
Yeah.
out now. But we'll see. So
Congratulations. I'm
thank you.
really happy
So,
for you.
say he's asking, do you have a book writing formula? I do, and for $19.99. No, I'm just joking. Um, it's somebody asked me this the other day. That is a really good question, and then I'd like to hear what Ross is going to say on this too, because our books are different, as probably all books are. But I have a formula that I kind of created as I was going. I don't know that it was the traditional way. I wrote a lot from what I knew. I transcribed videos I had already done on live streaming. I did some research here and there, and then I started just kind of compiling it. And I tried to write it to a beginner, and I tried to write it in a fashion that made sense from start to finish, even though if you knew some of it, you could jump somewhere else. And I mean, my goal was literally is that it was easy, and that at the end of it, you knew enough if you wanted to start live streaming or you were afraid of live streaming. So, but that's something that somebody's asked me to do a video on that I'll probably dive a little bit more into. What about you, Ross?
I mean, I have a process. I don't know that it's really relevant to most people unless they're going to have 50 to 100 something contributors to their book, but a lot of it revolves around reaching out to people, deadlines, getting their stuff back, creating the graphic from each one, editing each one, the pull quote, um, proofreading the whole thing, getting to the point where then I write an intro and some other sections, reference sections in the back, pulling together a gallery of all the people. There are a lot of steps. I mean, it's more complicated than that. And, um, I think if you're doing your first book, mine, like I said, came out of a blog series that I had been doing for 5 years or whatever. If you're doing your own book, I mean, just write your own book. It's probably far easier than trying to get. I'm not saying don't have collaborators, but start with 3 or 2 or 5 or 10. But mine is obviously it grew out of something I was
Yeah,
already doing, but
yeah,
it's a lot.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and you know, and I haven't written something like he's done. The most I did was a couple of years ago. I did a video about trends and reached out to a bunch of other creators,
That was
and
great.
yeah, I think you were on there,
Yeah.
and was, you know, happy when the majority of them said, "Yeah, I'll shoot a video and send it to you," and you know, but even that was easier. Now, in hindsight, if I'd been as smart as Ross, I'd have been, so how do I turn this into a book? It's probably not too late, except I think that one is dated now. But I think if anything, you know, just kind of lean into what you're good at, and then create a process, but then learn. I started to say we've got a mutual friend. I think you guys are closer, but Dale Roberts
Right.
on YouTube, and if you're thinking of self publishing and KDP, check out his YouTube channel. Tons of great resources on there.
I couldn't have done it without him. I mean, he's taught me a lot of what I know from his content, also from talking to him directly and so forth, because we've been good friends for a while. But yeah, his game plan works, because in terms of how I marketed it on Amazon to get bestsellers and book awards and different things, that all comes right out of the Dale Roberts School of Self Publishing.
Yeah, yeah, and then you know, and Sadie and other ones watching this, you're going to find a system too that maybe we haven't even thought about that works for you, and that's what's really cool. So, I'm really excited that we've got these books out here, and again, there are links down in the description to both the books. They are available on Amazon and other places based on, I know which ones that you get. And Ross, where is the best place people can connect with you?
Livestreamuniverse.com. Livestreamuniverse.com.
I'm telling you, if you haven't gone there, go there. I mean, it's like it's a wealth of information. And my friend, I am so excited and thankful and honored that you wrote the forward, and you've I mean, I told somebody the other day, my book publisher, my book agent Ross is keeping up with the sales more than I am, and then I felt bad, but it was
It's
actually
like,
through
hey, look,
Ross's.
you're number one. You don't have to say hot new release anymore. Now you're a number one bestseller.
That was funny because the day after I was a hot new release, and I'm like, dang, that's pretty cool too. And then and then Ross the next day goes, stop saying that. You're now a best-selling author. And I'm like, I am. I need to go check. And it's surreal. It's absolutely surreal. But I appreciate you so much, and appreciate you being on here today. So make sure you check out Ross. And look, I got to tell you, if you're a video creator and you're even thinking about writing a book, try it, do it. I mean, it's just like video. You don't know how it's going to be until you put it out there. And what I tell folks a lot of times, if they've never done video and they go, well, I don't know what to do, well, make that your first video. So if you're struggling on what to write, just start writing, or go through your notes, or go through your video, or whatever you do, and consider that, because we've gone over the 6 reasons. You can rewatch this if you want to see them. They're solid, and you may have your own reason, but I'm telling you, it will absolutely open doors as a video creator. And I'm a fairly new author as of recording this, than I think you've ever seen. So anyway, I really appreciate you watching. Subscribe if you want to for more, and remember, keep creating. See you next time. Bye.